Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is a show where we take that whole stack of sources you've got, the news, the travel blogs, maybe some deep academic research.
Yeah.
And we boil it all down to the essential, actionable truth. We're here to give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed.
And today we are tackling a destination that really, it forces us to reconcile two completely competing narratives. We're going somewhere that is, genuinely breathtaking, rich in world-class assets, both natural and cultural, but it's a place where the reputation often gets there long before you do.
Okay, let's unpack that right away. We are diving deep into Central America, specifically Honduras. And I think we have to start right there with that tension point you mentioned. For so many people, the word Honduras immediately brings up a conversation about caution, about safety.
Absolutely.
And that's based on headlines that have, for decades, really dominated the global news cycle about the country.
And that tension is real. We can't ignore it. We're going to address it head on later. But first, I think we really need to establish why an adventurous traveler would even have this place on their radar to begin with. The draw, the sheer physical and cultural assets are world-class. They actively defy that negative perception.
It's like Honduras is hiding these treasures in plain sight.
Exactly. Treasures that you just aren't going to find anywhere else, not at this price point, and certainly not with this level of authenticity.
Right. And the geography alone, it just suggests a destination with staggering potential. We're talking about the Bay Islands, Roatan and Utila, and they sit directly on the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef.
And that's a crucial piece of data. This isn't just some nice local reef. This is the second largest barrier reef system in the entire world. It stretches for nearly 700 miles.
So we're not just talking about good diving.
No, not at all. We are talking about a globally significant, incredibly biodiverse marine ecosystem that is, and this is the key, shockingly accessible. And then you turn inland, and the assets just keep coming. You have Copan.
Copan, the site of some of the most intricate, artistically rich Mayan ruins ever discovered.
Which is why it earned that famous nickname, the Paris of the Mayan world.
And it's not all just islands in history either. The mainland has this wild card, Pico Bonito National Park.
Right, near La Ceiba. This is a massive expanse of lush, virtually untouched jungle, towering mountains, and these pristine, raging rivers.
So you're right. It's a triple threat that very few countries in the region can match. You've got reef, you have ruins, and you have rainforest.
So our mission today is to look beyond those easy headlines. We need to analyze the genuine reality on the ground for a foreign traveler, dive into the logistical challenges, and really provide the full, nuanced picture of the adventure that's on offer here.
And answer that core question. For the curious traveler, or the budget-conscious diver, or the serious culture seeker, is the potential reward worth the inherent effort, and let's be honest, the risk management required?
That's the question. And to answer it, we're focusing on the areas that are specifically developed for and generally deemed safer for tourism. That means the Bay Islands of Roatan and Utila, the cultural hub of Copan Ruins out in the west, and the untamed wilderness around Pico Bonito on the northern coast.
Okay, so let's start with that first hurdle, logistics.
Yeah.
Getting in and then getting around. Because for a place with a complex reputation, how you manage your arrival and your initial movements is, I think, absolutely crucial. It sets the tone for the entire trip.
It really does, and this is where that initial planning is so essential. So if you're looking at arriving by air, you have two primary hubs on the mainland that service international flights. There's Ramon Villeda Morales Airport, that's SAP, in San Pedro Sula.
And then the airport in the capital, Toncontín, Tegucigalpa.
Right, but what's fascinating is the immediate piece of guidance you get from all the source material. It is absolutely uniform on this point. For the vast majority of tourists, and certainly for a first-time visitor, these massive mainland cities are nothing more than transfer points.
So the advice is clear. You land, you connect immediately, and you move on.
Without delay. You do not plan on staying overnight. You don't wander.
And why is that advice so emphatic? If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's because those high crime rates that you see in the international press.
They're disproportionately concentrated in those big urban centers.
Right. It's tied to poverty, gang activity, the challenges of a massive, dense population. So by just bypassing them, you drastically mitigate your exposure to those primary risks.
That's the critical cautionary tale for entering on the mainland. But there is a much simpler, much preferred logistical option, especially if your primary goal is diving, snorkeling, and the beach life of the Bay Islands.
And that's flying directly into Juan Manuel Galvez International Airport, RTB, right on the island of Roatan.
That is the real game changer for modern travel to this region. You can get direct flights into RTB from major international hubs all across the U.S. and Canada.
Which effectively lets you just completely sidestep the entire mainland context.
Exactly. You avoid the logistical complexity of transfers, and it just drops you right into a well-established Caribbean tourist environment.
And that must set an entirely different tone for the start of a vacation.
Oh, completely. You land directly in paradise. You go from seeing this deep blue expanse of the Caribbean to watching this lush, green, low-slung island just rise out of the water, and it's fringed by these turquoise shallows. It feels like an immediate, successful escape before you've even cleared customs.
Okay, so once you're on the islands, let's say you want to get between the two main ones, Roatan and Utila. What are your options?
You've got a distinct choice. You can opt for the small, quick, and highly scenic island hopper flights. They get you there in just a few minutes, and you get these incredible views of the reef system from the air.
Oh.
Or you can take what our sources consistently call either a true rite of passage or a necessary evil, depending on who you ask.
Ah, the Galaxy Wave ferry.
The Galaxy Wave.
Let's talk about this experience, because for budget travelers, it's a necessary thing to consider. It's a modern, high-speed catamaran, so the boat itself is built for efficiency.
Yeah.
But the Caribbean can be temperamental.
It can, and the water between the islands, especially where the ocean floor just drops off, can be notoriously choppy.
And that's the key word, isn't it? Notoriously.
Absolutely. If the water's rough, that 2-hour ride is, let's just say, highly dynamic. And the critical, universally repeated advice is practical. It's not just anecdotal. If you are at all prone to motion sickness, take Dramamine or something similar at least 30 minutes before you get on.
And try to get a seat outside.
Yes. Sit on the upper deck outside where you can get fresh air and keep your eyes on the horizon. It is part of the adventure, but you have to be genuinely prepared for a vigorous journey.
Okay, so let's shift gears. What about the more complex journey for the cultural traveler? Someone who wants to get to that crown jewel on the mainland, Copan Ruins. How do they get there safely and efficiently?
The journey for them usually starts from San Pedro Sula, from SAP, even if you flew into Roatan first and then took an internal flight back to the mainland. From SAP, you absolutely must rely on the comfortable, air-conditioned coach buses.
The ones from reputable international class companies.
Yes, this is non-negotiable for safety and comfort. You want to look for the major names known for serving the tourist routes. Hedman Alas is frequently cited as the gold standard.
That sounds like a long haul, though. What's the trip actually like?
It's a several-hour trip, usually anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, depending on road conditions, maybe checkpoints. The reason you want that high-end carrier is twofold. First, security, less chance of any roadside incidents. And second, comfort. The journey takes you winding high up into the western mountains.
So the roads aren't exactly straight highways.
Not at all. They're often two-lane, occasionally poorly maintained, lots of sharp curves and elevation changes. You want a professional driver who knows that terrain like the back of his hand.
So what's the payoff for that required travel time?
The scenery. It is genuinely stunning. You leave the humid coastal plains and you start to ascend into this mountainous, rural, just beautiful high-altitude part of Honduras. You see coffee plantations, vast stretches of pine forest, traditional mountain villages. It's a cultural landscape you just won't see on the coast or the islands.
So it reinforces that domestic travel is possible.
It's possible, even encouraged, but it demands smart, professional, daytime-only choices.
The overwhelming advice, then, is travel smart and keep moving until you hit your intended spot. Which brings us to where you lay your head accommodation. And this is where Honduras really shows its split personality. It offers these vastly different experiences and values.
The split is incredibly stark, especially on the main tourist island, Roatan, which is marketed heavily to two completely different kinds of travelers. First up, you've got West Bay.
West Bay. This is the classic picture postcard, Caribbean resort reality.
Yeah.
This is where you find the bigger, more established, often all-inclusive resorts.
Places like the Grand Roatan Resort.
Right. Where the beach is meticulously manicured, the service is totally plug-and-play. It's catering heavily to families, couples, cruise ship day trippers who want that completely stress-free, insulated holiday experience.
It's beautiful, it's expensive by Honduran standards, and it's predictable. But then, just a few miles down the road, you can get there by water taxi or a short drive. The whole atmosphere shifts completely. You hit the West End.
And this is where it gets really interesting for the adventurous traveler. West End is the epicenter for backpackers, for long-term travelers, and the core diving community. The whole vibe is rustic. It's bustling. It's highly communal.
You've got small guest houses, simple boutique hotels, and almost every dive shop doubles as some kind of lodging. And it's all situated right on this narrow, sandy main road where you're dodging chickens and scooters. It just feels alive, you know? Unpolished and intensely social.
The energy there is all driven by one thing.
The ocean. Now take that West End vibe and distill it down even further. Remove almost all the amenities, amplify the social aspect, and then drop the budget threshold by another, say, 50%.
And you have Utila.
And you have Utila. Utila is legendary in the budget travel community. It's known globally as the budget diving capital of the Caribbean. This is where thousands of people come every single year, specifically to get their PAYD open water certification without completely draining their savings.
So the accommodation there just reflects that goal.
Perfectly. You are not there for luxury, you are there to dive. People usually stay right at the dive shops, often in these really social dormitories or in very simple, basic private rooms. You're paying for the dive training and the boat access, not for the thread count. It's cheap, it's utilitarian, and it fosters this really rapid, intense social bonding among the divers.
And managing your expectations here is so critical. If you need consistent AC or fast Wi-Fi or luxurious private amenities, Utila is going to be a shock to your system.
It will be. But if your sole focus is world-class diving on a minimal budget and maximizing your time with other like-minded travelers, it offers an absolutely unbeatable setup and value.
Then we shift dramatically back to the mainland for Copan Ruins. And the town itself is just a complete, fascinating departure from that humid, transient Caribbean vibe of the islands.
It has this profound mainland charm that feels so rooted in Central American history. The town is built around cobblestone streets. You've got these beautiful red tile roofs and these stunning, often historic family-run hotels.
We're talking about Spanish colonial-style haciendas.
Exactly. Often built around these central courtyards that are just overflowing with tropical flowers and the sounds of birds. It feels romantic and quiet and deeply historic. Places like the Hotel Marina Copan give you that immediate sense of stepping back in time.
And this is where the financial analysis really shines for the cultural traveler. The value proposition on the mainland is just exceptional compared to the islands.
Oh, it's insane. You can get a stunning, historic, high-quality room in Copan, maybe with a balcony overlooking the valley, for the same price you'd pay for a very average, basic, fan-cooled room in the west end of Roatan.
Which significantly lowers the overall cost and raises the quality of a culture-focused trip.
Absolutely.
So you have the ultra-resort life, the rustic dive life, and the historic mainland charm, all within one country. And wherever you land, you can find a place to stay that meets a very specific need. And once you're settled, the next essential ingredient for any compelling trip is, without a doubt, the food.
Ah, yes. The culinary cornerstones of Honduras. The food here it's characterized by simplicity, incredible freshness, and just this deep, hearty satisfaction. It's comfort food, Central American style. But there's one national icon that has to be the central focus of this whole section.
The mighty baleta. I think we need to dedicate some serious time to this because it's a phenomena. Travelers often miss just how significant this humble dish is.
The baleta is, I think, culinary perfection achieved through extreme simplicity and perfect texture. You start with the foundation, a fresh, thick, handmade flour tortilla de harina.
And this is the key. It's soft, it's slightly elastic, and it's warm from the grill. It is not a thin, crispy corn tortilla.
No, it's substantial. It's what holds it all together. It's lightly grilled, then it's generously slathered with a thick layer of mashed refried beans, the frijoles, which are often slow-cooked and slightly salty.
Then you top that with a generous sprinkle of salty dry cheese, often queso seco.
Or queso rallado, yeah. And then a dollop of mantequilla, which isn't butter. It's a thin, slightly tangy sour cream, closer to Mexican crema.
And that's it. That's the classic, basic baleada simple, which, I mean, it's astonishing you can still get it from street carts everywhere for about $1, maybe $2.
It's possibly the best dollar you will ever spend on food. But its versatility is its genius. For breakfast, you add scrambled eggs, the baleada con huevo. For lunch, you might add avocado, pickled onions, grilled chicken, steak.
Or you can even incorporate that unique Garifuna touch.
Yes, let's pull on that thread. We mentioned the Garifuna culture, the descendants of shipwrecked African slaves and indigenous Carib people who are heavily concentrated along that northern coast and the Bay Islands.
So how does their cuisine specifically contribute to the Honduran palate?
Well, Garifuna cuisine brings this massive infusion of coconut and cassava, or yuca. So while the traditional mainland food relies heavily on beans and corn, the islands and coastal regions use coconut milk extensively, especially in seafood.
Like in Machuca.
A perfect example. Machuca is mashed plantain served with this rich, coconut milk-based fish broth. It adds this crucial layer of unique Caribbean flavor that, the rest of Central America doesn't typically have.
Okay, moving back to the islands, the cuisine naturally pivots heavily towards the sea. So, outside of the baleada, what is the mandatory must-try dish?
The whole fried fish. This is the absolute epitome of island dining. You have to try it at least once. It arrives at your table crispy, seasoned with fresh lime, served alongside those classic Caribbean staples. Rice and beans, which are often cooked with coconut milk, and sweet fried plantains, the tajadas.
And it's incredibly fresh, usually caught that morning.
Exactly. It's just perfectly executed in its simplicity.
But there's that one truly unique national dish that often surprises visitors. The one that blends the sea with that coastal richness. Sopa de caracol. Conch soup.
Oh, it's an absolute cultural and culinary treasure.
Yeah.
This isn't just some clear broth. It's ripped, it's creamy, it's undeniably luxurious. The base is this thick, often spicy coconut milk, and it has these tender chunks of conch, which is a large sea snail, kind of like a scallop in texture, but chewier, along with various root vegetables like yuca and plantain.
It's hearty, comforting, often claimed to be an aphrodisiac.
And definitively Honduran.
And we can't ignore the drinks, especially since this is a serious coffee-growing nation. For local loggers, you got Salvavida, which means lifesaver, and Port Royal. Both are light, crisp, perfect for that humid climate.
But the true highlight, especially when you venture inland, is the coffee. Honduras is a giant on the world coffee stage. They often rank in the top 10 global producers. They grow some of the absolute best high-altitude Arabica beans, particularly in the mountains around Copan and Lempira.
And this is where that sensory experience connects back to the travel. The memory of sitting in the highlands of Copan, maybe in one of those courtyard hacienda hotels, sipping a freshly brewed, locally grown, single-origin cup of Honduran coffee on a misty morning.
It's a moment of deep, accessible luxury. The flavor profiles are often noted for their chocolatey base, a bright acidity, sometimes citrus notes. You are drinking world-class coffee directly at the source.
So to summarize the food, outside of the most exclusive resorts, it's incredibly flavorful, it's fresh, it's hearty, and crucially,
It is extremely affordable. Your food budget goes a very, very long way here. The budget traveler can eat like a king.
okay, so we've set the scene, we've gotten you there, found you a comfortable place to rest, and we fed you a magnificent dollar-priced feast. Now we get at the core of this deep dive, the activities. The 3 R's, reef, ruins, and rainforest. This is the reason travelers are willing to navigate the logistics and manage the reputation.
Let's start with the biggest draw for the majority of visitors, the reef. And we have to reiterate, this is not hyperbole. The diving and snorkeling along the Bay Islands are truly world-class, not just Central American class. And that's because they are sitting right on the Mesoamerican Barrier Reef.
And just to emphasize that again, it's the second biggest on the planet. Only the Great Barrier Reef is larger. The conditions in the Honduran section are generally ideal. The water is bathwater warm year-round. Visibility is frequently spectacular, exceeding 100 feet.
And the density of marine life is abundant thanks to protected status and conservation efforts.
So in Roatan specifically, you have hundreds of named dive sites.
And many of them are just minutes from the shore, which significantly cuts down on boat time and on costs. The topography is fascinating. We're not just talking about flat coral gardens. You're exploring complex underwater geography. Vertical walls that drop off into the deep blue, huge coral canyons, and famous swim-throughs and tunnels that make the dive genuinely immersive.
What stands out in terms of marine life? What are you going to see?
The biodiversity is astonishing. Sea turtles, loggerheads, and hawksbills are common sights, often just grazing near the reef crest. You'll see huge groupers hiding in crevices, schools of parrotfish, angelfish, and these vast formations of healthy coral, including enormous brain coral and barrel sponges. And for wreck divers, sites like the El Aguila Wreck provide an artificial reef that is now just teeming with life.
Sounds highly accessible for certified divers. But what about beginners? What if you want to get certified there?
It's accessible at every level. Any resort or dive shop will offer discovery dives, which lets a non-certified person go down one-on-one with an instructor. But if you're serious about full certification, PADI open water, or advanced, that's where Utila comes in. It has achieved this legendary status.
And why is Utila able to offer some of the cheapest paid courses in the world? What's the technical reason?
It really comes down to two main factors: density of competition and local economics. Utila is tiny, and nearly every single business is a dive shop. That intense competition keeps the prices razor thin.
And the cost of living is lower.
Exactly. The cost of living and local labor is significantly lower than on the more developed Roatan, so shops can pass those savings directly on to the consumer. And that affordability, combined with excellent, highly experienced international instructors, makes it the dedicated place to learn.
And Utila offers something Roatan can't always guarantee, though it is seasonal.
Yes, the big seasonal draw, whale sharks. Utila sits near this nutrient-rich channel in the deep water, which makes it one of the few places in the world where whale shark sightings are relatively consistent.
When's the best time to go?
Especially between March and May, and then again between August and October. This ability to potentially snorkel with the world's largest fish is a massive, massive draw for both divers and snorkelers.
Okay, moving from the deep blue to deep history, the ruins of Copan. We've established that the site is culturally massive, but we need to explain in detail why it's known as the Paris of the Mayan world.
The comparison to Paris, it isn't about size, it's about artistic refinement and sophistication. Sites like Tikal in Guatemala or Chichen Itza in Mexico, they're renowned for their massive, towering pyramids and just overwhelming scale. Copan is fundamentally different.
Its magic is in the detail.
The sheer intricacy, the delicacy, and the excellent preservation of its carvings, its stele and its bas-reliefs, the stonework is almost Baroque. Unlike the more generalized art you see at other sites, the stele at Copan are detailed, three-dimensional portraits of the ancient kings, the Kuhul Aja, who ruled the Copan dynasty for over 400 years.
So you're seeing individual faces.
You see the specific facial features, the elaborate headdresses, the jewelry, the symbols of their authority, all carved into this volcanic tuff. You get a sense of individual personality and dynastic history that is just unparalleled.
And we have to mention the centerpiece of this artistic legacy, the hieroglyphic stairway.
This is truly one of the most incredible historical artifacts left in the Americas. It's an epic historical narrative carved into the very steps of a massive structure. The staircase has nearly 2,200 individual glyphs.
Which makes it the longest known Mayan text in existence.
By far. It tells the story of the dynastic line of Copan, focusing mainly on the reigns of the 12th through the 16th rulers. It records wars, alliances, rituals, astronomical events. I mean, when you stand there looking up, you get true goosebumps thinking about the sheer depth of history encoded in those steps.
And there's another powerful element of the atmosphere there, and this is a beautiful connection to the environment, the constant presence of the scarlet macaws.
It transforms the site. The scarlet macaw, with its brilliant red and blue plumage, it was sacred to the Maya, closely linked to the sun god. And today, the Copan site is the center of a very successful reintroduction and conservation program.
So seeing them flying freely, landing on the ancient stele.
Hearing their calls echoing through the ruins, it connects the profound past and the vibrant living present in this uniquely visceral and colorful way.
Okay, finally, let's talk about the rainforest. This is the side of Honduras that travelers who stick only to Roatan completely miss. Pico Bonito National Park.
This is the raw, rugged, mountainous heart of the mainland, located near La Ceiba. If you crave wild, unspoiled nature and serious adrenaline, this is the destination. Pico Bonito is one of the largest protected areas in Honduras, and it encompasses this massive range of elevation.
And what does that range of elevation mean for the traveler's experience?
It means enormous biodiversity and distinct ecosystems. The mountains climb dramatically from sea level to over 7,000 feet, so you get transitions from humid tropical rainforest all the way up to cloud forest at the higher altitudes. The density of flora and fauna is astounding.
So you have a real chance of spotting exotic wildlife.
A genuine opportunity for spotting birds like toucans and trogons, howler monkeys, and, if you're very, very lucky, even elusive jaguars in the deepest parts of the park.
What are the main activities that draw travelers who make the effort to come all the way out here?
The terrain really lends itself to two main high-energy activities. First, serious, demanding hiking to gigantic waterfalls. These falls, like the spectacular El Bejuco waterfall, are powerful, cascading hundreds of feet down.
And you can often swim at the base.
Which is an amazing reward after a sweaty jungle trek. And second, the adrenaline rush of whitewater rafting down the Congreal River.
And this is a major draw for adventure enthusiasts.
It is. We're not talking about a leisurely float trip here. The Cangrejal River is famous for offering serious rapids, generally classified as Class 3 and 4 depending on the season and rainfall. This is fast-moving water. It requires paddling skill and commitment, and it provides a massive adrenaline rush.
And the surrounding environment, that has to elevate the whole experience.
Absolutely. You are surrounded entirely by pristine, untouched jungle the whole way. The river runs through this deep gorge, and it creates a sense of total immersion and isolation from the modern world. It's the perfect counterpoint to the beaches and the ancient ruins.
Which really highlights that missed opportunity. If you only see the Bay Islands, you've missed out on the unique cultural depth of Copan and the incredible, wild, high-octane adventure of the mainland jungle. Honduras truly offers an adventure for every taste.
Provided you're willing to manage the logistical challenge of moving between these disparate regions.
Right, and that necessity of movement, however, brings us to the next crucial section. We have spent all this time celebrating the beauty and the value. Now we have to address the elephant in the room and discuss the necessary precautions. Navigating safety and what the seasoned traveler should probably skip entirely.
Okay, let's take the lead on this sensitive topic. And we need to provide cautious, practical advice that is grounded in reality, not sensationalism. We have to acknowledge that Honduras has earned a reputation for danger, and that reputation is not entirely unfounded, especially when it comes to specific zones.
The key, though, is understanding concentration and context.
Exactly. The high crime rates reported in the international press are real, but they are overwhelmingly concentrated in the large, densely populated, complex urban centers. The cities of San Pedro Sula and Tegucigalpa, where most tourists have absolutely no reason to be.
So the primary safety strategy for you, as the tourist, is straightforward. Skip the cities. Do not plan to spend time in San Pedro Sula or the capital. Use them strictly as transport hubs.
If you absolutely must have an overnight, use an airport hotel or a hotel that provides a vetted shuttle service and has its own security. Do not wander, and avoid being out in these areas at night at all costs.
But this risk profile changes dramatically once you get to the established smaller tourist zones.
Completely. The Bay Islands, the town of Copan Ruins, the area around Pico Bonito National Park, these are fundamentally different ecosystems. They generally have a visible, significant presence of tourist police and are considered safe for visitors who exercise basic caution.
But safety isn't a guarantee. It requires proactive diligence on your part. You still have to use that standard common sense that applies to any unfamiliar location, especially in a developing country with, a lot of economic disparity.
Let's get really concrete. What does common sense actually look like on the ground there?
Okay.
It means conscious risk mitigation. For example, don't flash wealth. Keep expensive items, like a high-end camera or flashy jewelry, minimal and discreetly stored. When you're using your phone, don't just do it absent-mindedly while walking down a busy street. Duck into a doorway or a cafe.
And with money.
Only use ATMs that are located inside a bank lobby or within a heavily guarded hotel or supermarket. Never use an isolated street ATM.
What about just simple movement, especially after dark, even in those safer tourist zones like West End on Roatan?
In the islands, movement is generally easy, but after dark, stick to well-lit areas and avoid walking alone if you can. If you need a ride, use a licensed, reputable taxi service that's recommended by your hotel or your dive shop. And always, always agree on the fare before you get in. The goal is to always project awareness and confidence.
Okay, now for the logistical skips. These are the things to avoid that will just ruin your experience, increase your risk, or just deplete your energy. The first major one is trying to do too much.
Yes. Skip rushing. Do not try to cram Roatan, Utila, Copan, and the jungle experience into a single week. Honduras is vast, and the travel time between these points, even with internal flights, is exhausting.
So if you have 10 days.
Pick 2 regions and do them well. For example, a week diving in Utila, followed by 3 days immersed in the culture and history of Copan, makes a much more fulfilling and less stressful trip.
The second major logistical skip, and this goes against the instincts of many North American travelers, is absolutely crucial. Skip renting a car. Avoid driving yourself.
This isn't just about general discomfort. It's about eliminating unnecessary risk and complication. The reasons are multifaceted. Road conditions are unpredictable. We're talking major potholes, lack of clear signage, unpaved secondary roads. Navigation can be difficult, especially without reliable service.
But more importantly,
self-driving exposes you to potential complications with police checkpoints, insurance issues, and the logistical nightmare if you have an accident.
So you rely instead on that established tourist infrastructure we talked about.
The reputable coach buses, the short internal flights, the ferries, prearranged hotel transport. Let a professional local company handle the unpredictable conditions. It is safer, it's more efficient, and it allows you to actually relax and enjoy the scenery.
So if you're smart about where you go and you meticulously plan how you move between those points, you can largely mitigate the publicized risks and focus entirely on the adventure. Which brings us to the synthesis of this whole experience, the real vibe of Honduras.
What's fascinating here is the feeling of unpolished authenticity. If we contrast Honduras with its neighbor, Costa Rica, which is highly developed, it's slick, it's been fine-tuning its eco-tourism package for decades.
Honduras feels rugged, less manicured, genuinely more like a frontier.
And for the experienced traveler, that ruggedness is the massive draw. It doesn't feel like a packaged product. It feels like an exploration, a place where you are genuinely discovering things rather than just following a predetermined path.
On the islands, that authenticity is blended into this truly unique cultural atmosphere that defines that laid-back frontier town feel we mentioned.
You have this fascinating cultural cocktail. You have the deep, historic local Garifuna culture, which contributes the music, the drumming, the punta dance, the language, the coconut-rich cuisine.
And that's mixed with the legacy of British influence from its colonial past.
Right, especially in the Bay Islands where English is often spoken. And then you add to that the more recent transient influx of international divers and North American expats who have settled there. It creates a vibe that is simultaneously Caribbean, Latin American, and something entirely unique to itself.
But the heart of the experience is always the people, the Hondurans themselves, the Catrachos. What's the consistent takeaway from travelers about the locals?
Their warmth. That is what every single visitor consistently highlights. They are genuinely welcoming, often intensely proud of their country, and they're eager to share its lesser-known beauty with visitors who've made the effort to come and see beyond the headlines. You'll find an undeniable open kindness there and a patience that is much appreciated when you're dealing with infrastructure challenges.
Which brings us to an honest economic reality check. You, the traveler, you need to arrive with a mindset of patience and maximum flexibility.
It is essential to remember that you are in a developing country with significant economic challenges. You should anticipate and be prepared for visible poverty, particularly outside the tourist bubbles. And furthermore, the infrastructure will sometimes fail you.
Power outages.
An hour or two are common, especially on the islands. You should expect spotty, slow Wi-Fi. The water pressure might be low. If these are the kinds of things that stress you out or ruin your trip, this is simply not the destination for you.
So the summary vibe then is that Honduras is a place for travelers who enjoy a level of challenge and discovery, not just tourists who are seeking a fully insulated, seamless bubble. It feels adventurous. It feels genuinely on the edge of major discovery.
And this brings us to our final, essential question for synthesis. For whom is this worthwhile? Who should book that ticket, knowing all the complexities involved?
We've reached the final verdict. We've weighed the risks, celebrated the world-class ruins, detailed the budget diving. Honduras, is it worth it?
Based on the sheer quality of the core, non-replicable experiences, the second largest reef system, the unparalleled artistic ruins of Copan, and the deep value for money, I give it an unequivocal, resounding yes. It is absolutely worth it for the seasoned traveler who actively seeks world-class adventure, but without the world-class crowds and the prices of places like Belize or Costa Rica.
So if you're a budget diver or an ancient history buff,
Or someone who cherishes stepping off that well-worn path, Honduras will reward you tremendously.
I agree with the positive verdict, but I feel compelled to frame it with the necessary caveat. I'll give a yes, IF. It is worth it if you are an already smart and highly aware traveler with experience in developing nations. It's worth it if you meticulously select your locations and rigidly follow the safety strategy we outlined, sticking to tourist routes, avoiding the major cities.
For those who can meet those criteria, the combination of value, profound natural beauty, cultural depth, and that unpolished authenticity that you get in Honduras is quite frankly off the charts. It's an investment in your adventurous spirit.
So there you have it. Don't let the sensationalized headlines scare you away from what is, objectively, one of the most compelling and highest value destinations in all of Central America. Do your research, be smart, travel with awareness, and go explore the reef, the ruins, and the rainforest.
And a final thought to leave you with, one that connects the threads of our discussion on history and the environment. We spent some time on the profound link between the ancient Mayan civilization and the modern ecosystem.
Specifically, the fact that the scarlet macaws were sacred to the Mayan kings who built Copan, and now they're flying freely over the site thanks to conservation.
Exactly. Macaws soaring over the hieroglyphic stairway, linking 1,500 years of history. And this highlights a crucial concept. What does that connection mean for preservation in a developing economy? It means that the historical significance of the ruins is intrinsically tied to the environmental health of the surrounding pristine nature, like Pico Bonito. Preserving the historical legacy of both the cultural and the natural treasures requires not just careful excavation, but dedicated long-term environmental protection and economic strategies that favor sustainability. And you should consider what role you, the modern traveler, should play in encouraging that holistic, interconnected approach when you choose how to spend your tourism dollars.
A profound thought to end on, tying the past and the future together in one beautiful, wild country. A massive thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Honduras.
Until next time, travel smart and travel deep.